let's go to the people from patreon.com/Smoking Tire Podcast. Michael Cosgrove says, keep, cash, and crush. It's a version of fuck, marry, kill, I think. Crush the Bentayga Puro Sangue. We didn't talk about the Ferrari SUV
We did
yet.
not.
And the Urus. Hey everybody, welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode is brought to you, strangely enough, by another podcast. F1 Fast and Loose with Will Arnett. Do you like listening to the sound of Will Arnett's voice?
Yes.
Do you want to listen to him talk about Formula One racing? Because
Maybe.
now you can. Formula One drivers live life in the fast lane, on and off the track. And Wondery's new podcast, Fast and Loose F1, hosted by Will Arnett, is here to cover it all. From McLaren to Ferrari to Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton to Daniel Ricciardo, the world's most prestigious and fastest F1 teams challenge each other on the world stage. And on Fast and Loose F1, you'll hear from those drivers, managers, and team owners who get inside access into the high-stakes drama of the chase to win the world's greatest racing competition. Smartless co-host Will Arnett will be joined by two-time world champion, the Flying Finn, Mika Hakkinen. Baller, revealing the high-speed twists and turns after every Formula One race. Listen to Fast and Loose F1 on Amazon Music or wherever you get podcasts, or listen ad-free by subscribing to Wondery Plus in the Wondery app. Hey folks, today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by BERRYMAN Automotive. You know, although you can walk into an auto parts store and find hundreds of lubricants and additives, sealers, and parts cleaners, but only one company has made hundreds of those products for over a century, and that's BERRYMAN. Whether you're a professional mechanic or a do-it-yourselfer or somewhere in between, the BERRYMAN name has been synonymous with performance-enhancing solutions like their industry gold standard B12 ChemTool fuel additives made with BERRYMAN's exclusive high-energy solvent technology, or HEST. Hundreds of solutions and 100 years of experience, all from one company. That's BERRYMAN Products, all American-made since 1918. BERRYMAN remains committed to producing products that meet the highest standards of performance, reliability, and environmental responsibility. In fact, here at my business, Westside Collector Car Storage, where we record this podcast, we store over 100 cars. Many of them are in our long-term care. And over that amount of time, if you've heard this in the past from someone else or myself, fuel can go bad. The chemical compounds can break down and gunk up your fuel system. And that's why we use BERRYMAN's fuel stabilizing products and fuel system cleaning products here in our cars to keep these cars ready to drive and have clean, strong fuel systems every time their owners want to take them out. So you'll find BERRYMAN at all major automotive retailers, or check them out at BERRYMANproducts.com. That's BERRYMAN products.com. We're also brought to you today by Off the Record, OTR, baby. Do not participate in the ecosystem that they want you to participate in. Don't plead guilty when you get a speeding ticket or other moving violation. Call Off the Record. In fact, I use the word call, but you don't really have to call. You can go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TST10. Off the Record will set you up with a qualified attorney in the area where you got that ticket, the jurisdiction, if you choose to say it that way. And they will fight that ticket on your behalf. You don't have to appear in court. And that way, when they get those points off your record, you now are saving money on insurance, because they will jack your insurance rates if you get a ticket and plead guilty to it. That's why you got to call Off the Record. They have saved so many of our fans money. I regularly, and I'm talking about once a week, get an email from somebody who used Off the Record and is calling or emailing to thank me for introducing them, because it's such an easy service. Once you got the app or once you log in, all you got to do is upload a ticket via a photo from your camera phone or a scan, and they will handle the rest. It's super easy. It's affordable. And with code TST10 on the app or offtherecord.com/TST on the web, we will save you 10% on all Off the Record legal services from now until 2025. Love having these guys around. If I get pulled over, I'm confident that it's not going to become a problem later. Off the Record is the official ticket fighter connector of the Smoking Tire podcast. All right, folks, on this episode of the show, Zack and I have done a thorough spanking of the Aston Martin DBX in the canyons. We talk about that a little bit. Also, we reveal and review our giveaway project car. What is the best canyon car for $30,000? Find out what it is and then win it with our Smoking Tire Project Canyon Car Giveaway contest. We also go to the board, the Patreon, patreon.com/Smoking Tire Podcast, of course, for questions including what mods can make your car feel the most special. This is a good one. How to make your car the most special. It's a crew show today on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Well, you can use oat milk with the steam and
I'm going to.
just about move it at the right amount.
I wonder if it froths at the same kind of way that regular milk froths with.
This is a question for a YouTube barista.
Right.
100%. Like, here's the perfect way to make the perfect debit.
Right.
And you get your latte art going and do all that shit.
I have so many fucking tweets about this coming at me.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a recommendation on how to froth milk, please tweet Matt at the Smoking Tire.
Just don't. It's like by far the worst part of having a podcast is we're having this conversation now. I'm going to forget about it in 20 minutes. And then in a week and a half, when this show goes up, I'm going to get 100 tweets about oat milk and be like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I stopped thinking about this so long ago. Like I'll get no context Instagram DMs about shit I talked about literally years ago that people have just discovered now because that's how on-demand content works.
Right.
But they'll no context. They won't be like, hey, in the show from September of 2021, you said this, and I have a thought on that. Use it, don't use it, whatever. But they'll just be like, Coca-Cola Zero. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? And they're like, in a podcast, you said it. I was like, from what year?
Yeah.
Like, who
That's a
even
good tip for
knows?
people. If you're going to message us about a podcast topic, provide the context. Yeah.
I delete. I respond to emails I get. I respond to tweets that are written to me. I respond to Instagram DMs. I do my very best to engage with people. But if you message me with something on any platform, for fuck's sake, give me some context. Don't just share someone's Instagram story with me with no context. I will not watch that shit. I'm deleting your message. Don't say bottled water. And with no context, I have no idea what we're talking about, or I'm going to respond mad. I'm going to literally say, what the fuck are you talking about?
The only exception was soccer ball, but that's
the soccer ball thing.
That's a reference from season one of podcast.
I haven't gotten a soccer ball. And if you could do a soccer ball in 2022, I'll get a chuckle out of that because you've really gone deep in the catalog.
Yeah.
But like the number of no context DMs are fucking absurd.
Right, it's hard because no one will send you a video.
Do people just not know how to communicate anymore?
No, but they're listening to it then, and then like you said, they go, "Oh, I saw an Instagram reel about this bottled water thing," and they'll send it to you. But it's a month later, or even days later, and we're like, "Why are you sending a video about bottled water?"
No idea.
Because we forgot.
Yeah,
you know?
no idea.
It's just we need the context.
Yeah, please just help me out a little bit.
It's like being in court. They have to go, on the night of the 5th, you said blah, 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 blah. And you go, and then they go, here's the leading question.
Like, I'll engage with you to the point where you'll be like, doesn't this guy have something to do? Like, at that level. But you need to provide context for what we're saying. I appreciate that you're a fan. I appreciate that you're listening to the show. Even if it's a fucking years old show. Fine. Great. Take the view. I'll take the stream. I will sell ads against it.
We need to know what the fuck you're talking about. Is really what it is.
If you want to talk, tell me what you want to talk about before, especially with social media, because you can just hit that share button.
Right.
Fucking no context share of some random fool's stories. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to watch that. There could be a dick in there. You know what I mean? Like,
that's your fear. That's so funny.
It's not my fear. I've seen dicks before, but like, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna, it tells you if I've seen it. I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction of sending me that shit and seeing the scene without some fucking, hey, I was thinking of you when I saw this dick and decided to send it
That's
to
the context. So make sure to give Matt the context with the dick.
the context.
In Instagram Reels.
With the
I think
dick.
you're safe on Reels. I don't think they can show that stuff.
They don't do dicks on Reels?
I don't think so. But
I've
Twitter
never gone looking.
Twitter's full porn.
For a while, I decided to follow porn stars on Twitter, and then I realized very quickly they're not interesting outside of the one thing that
you see their starfish 4 times in a week. You've probably seen it.
Yeah, and a lot of porn stars I started following in like 2009. It's now 2022. We're not there anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I unfollowed all Instagram hoes. I follow no Instagram hoes anymore, and it really cleaned up the feed.
Yeah,
Really feel. I mean, Instagram kind of sucks in general now because of all the bots and stuff. But like, I not follow it, and also getting shit from people you don't follow. Like, don't suggest to me anything. Suggest nothing. Send me. I chose to follow these 500 people.
Oh right, yeah. Instagram's
Give
like
me
you
posts.
might like this. Because, yeah, that's very annoying.
I might fucking not. I spend a lot of time doing the don't show me this again.
Yeah, it's helpful.
A lot. So much Jordan Peterson adjacent trash. Do not show me Jordan Peterson adjacent anything. The fake masterclass was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was really fucking funny. So anyway, there's cars.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
I wrote a list too, but
You wrote a list? Well, we drove the DBX, which I talked about before in the last show.
we did.
But you
I
drove
had
it
not
this
driven
time.
it, so I got to drive it. We went into the canyons and did the review.
Turns out, kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, very good. Like as far as large SUVs, performance SUVs go, I think it is second in. Okay, I'll go third in like performance feedback. It's right there with the Cayenne
GT and Urus.
GT Turbo and Urus. Like those are the top.
Yeah.
But the Cayenne is almost so aggressive in terms of alignment and performance. It's not as comfortable around town, and it's
Right.
like, why am I driving a GTR that's labeled as Porsche? Like, just go get a sports car. It's
Yeah. The thing about the Cayenne GT is like, it's amazing, and I don't want one at all.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
like, it doesn't. Nothing that it does, I need, and to 99.9% of the people, it looks and feels like a car that costs half as much.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like.
And I like the Cayenne a lot, and I like
Cayennes
the
are
Cayenne Turbo
excellent.
a lot. And
Yeah.
I like that they can really have that dual personality of off-road and comfortable on the road, and they can do decent canyon
Right.
performance driving. But like
Just the
Turbo
GT, just
or
the
the
GT,
GT is
yeah.
high enough for me. I don't need you to give me the GT3 RS Cayenne.
Yeah.
So
yeah. My father. We went over this. He ordered a new Cayenne. I talked him out of the turbo. He was just going to get another turbo because he's always bought turbos. I talked him out of it. Said, you don't need this.
Mm-hmm.
You never use it. I know how you drive. You use 33% throttle at most ever. I go, get the hybrid.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it'll be fast enough and like whatever. If someone showed up somewhere and said, I bought a Cayenne GT, one of our clients here at Westside got one, loves it, great. I'm happy you're happy. But I don't see... It looks like a regular Cayenne unless you're a real fucking Cayenne connoisseur. Mm-hmm. And the things that it does are so far beyond what basically anybody would use it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it doesn't...
The tires are sticky, but they're going to wear out quicker. Like the consumables are going to be higher.
2.5 degrees of negative camber is crazy.
If you didn't see the video, we parked on a dirt lot, and the outside of the tires, maybe outside 1.5 inches, not even touching the ground.
I think more. I think the outside 2 inches of the tire are not actually touching the
Never
ground.
a clearer depiction of camber has there been on our channel.
Yeah, it was a hilarious amount of factory camber.
But the reason, so to go back to the DBX, the reason it's so good is because it's from I would call supercar, sports car manufacturer. That's like all they do. And so this has enough of the elements of like a DBS, DB7, DB9 in handling and fun. It's got the shape for it. So like,
yeah,
it's like out of the gate, it's a performance SUV, and it delivers on that. But it also is really usable and has good ground clearance and all that other shit.
Yeah, I literally use it to move. I've been hauling cardboard in it for days.
Did you put the cover back in?
I will tonight.
Okay,
I took the luggage compartment cover off. It's sitting in my garage right now. I'll put it back on. But like, I've hauled probably 200 pounds of cardboard in this thing. Like
flat boxes?
So many flat boxes because we have a dumpster here at WCCS. I've run Every box we use to move has been folded up, put in the back of the DBX, and brought here. Like, it's so usable. I went to dinner with 4 people. In the canyons, it is fast as fuck. It's so fast. And the rest of the time, it looks distinctly Aston Martin. Some people commented that they thought it was ugly. I don't think it's ugly at all. I think it looks great.
I don't think the dead front is its best angle, I would say.
It's got a big mouth.
But I think from every other direction, it's a very good-looking car.
But, like, I think the design language of Aston sports cars has been successfully applied to an SUV better than the Aventador styling applied to an Audi Q8 platform with the Urus.
Yeah,
I don't think that pointy nose works in the Urus.
I agree. And there's one literally at the car wash across the street right now. It's like baby blue. I think it definitely looks like a Lamborghini. Yeah. But it doesn't look like a good-looking Lamborghini truck. Whereas this is definitely a better-looking SUV.
I love driving Uruses. I did a lot of miles in them, and I think they drive great. And if you want a Lamborghini you can drive every day, they're like shockingly roomy in the front and the back. They're fast as fuck. They have great brakes. They do everything really well.
Yes.
But visually, they still don't do it for me in really any color. This, I think, works much better stylistically. And the performance is really close to what you get out of an Urus. Like, it would take either instrumented testing or the Stig to really tell the difference between a DBX 707 and an Urus. Like, the stopping distance, Urus is 2 feet shorter. The road holding is 0.6 better.
0 to 60 time is like a tenth of 2. I mean,
like,
it doesn't matter.
In the
Top
real
speed
world,
of this car is like 193.
Yeah, in the real world, they're the same.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fundamentally the same.
And, so we drove this car. We filmed the car, I should say, on the more open, flowy road, which, of course, it shone on. But once we were leaving and we started driving on the twistier stuff, we stopped really briefly. And I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This thing really impresses when the turns get to like that second, third gear corner, and the turn-in is eager but not too aggressive. Like, I was so impressed
really good
with
weight
how dialed it
distribution.
was. Yeah.
And it has a 48-volt suspension, active anti-roll control.
Those were disengaged because we had a little bit of a problem. But even in its, let's call it the honest setting of GT, which is the soft setting, I was really impressed by it.
Yeah. And it's got the wet clutch gearbox, which is really fast and responsive and smooth. And, I mean, it's not often that, like, because the regular DBX is a torque converter. Like, it's not often that the upgraded model gets a completely different gearbox in this class of car. The gearbox in a Cayenne all the way up is torque. It's torque converter, pretty much all the way up. So to change entirely for the higher model is rare.
Yeah.
And it's something you can really feel in terms of how the car drives all the time.
Did the Cayenne's transmission, your memory's better than mine, did it manage those like mid-throttle shifts more quickly? Because the DBX, if you're at 50, 60% throttle, the shift is a little lazy. It's like there's a half second between pulling the paddle and then it shifts. But at full throttle, the DBX, it's like immediate. But I can't remember if the Cayenne was a little better, because Porsche, like PDK, is really good at that.
And the torque converter stuff is pretty good too, but it's not as good as PDK. They try, but it's not. Where you notice it is the downshifts. The downshifts of a torque converter, they have a little bit of that drag because it doesn't fully disconnect. The wet clutch, you can feel it open, rev, close. And it's a snappier downshift, where it doesn't drag on the engine in the middle of the gear change. It's the reason I've always said that the AMG GT is better than the Aston V8 Vantage, because they're the same fucking engine, but one has the wet clutch, and one actually the GT has a dual clutch transaxle, and the Aston uses the ZF, which is a fine gearbox for many things, but in a supercar, it doesn't feel as sporting.
Yeah, definitely.
And so clutches are good. We did have a little bit of an issue. I drove this thing for a week, hundreds of miles, no problems. The thing was ace. I was warned that because it was a prototype, there might be some hiccups. It even said prototype on the window. Zack drove it for a day, no problem, and then all of a sudden, the drive mode selector stopped working.
Yeah.
right before we were to make the video. So we had to make the video in standard GT mode. I assume this is just a pre-production prototype hookup or fuck up. And it sucks.
Because it was working in the morning on the way to our location, and then I sat for a while, and I think I turned it off and on, and then that controller was like no longer illuminated and didn't work.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like something went wrong or I hit a bump or I don't know, clipped a wire. It was just like literally it was working and then it wasn't.
Yeah. So occasionally we have issues with press cars, and like I don't know, this is an early build, hand built car.
Literally says prototype on it.
Literally says prototype on it, and has 7,500 miles. So it's approaching the end of its useful life, and will probably meet the crusher very soon.
Yeah.
But still, despite that hiccup, which I assume is a software issue, I thought the build quality of it was incredibly good.
I agree.
Astons are very expensive, but when they talk about them being handmade, you have these very rich leathers. They smell like expensive handbags. The leather's very thick and feels really soft and nice, but then sometimes the stitching won't be quite right, and there's evidence that it was done by hand, which people can find charming, or some people go, well, it's it's fine if it's done by a machine if it's straight.
Yeah.
But this one was the first one where I really felt like it got right up on the assembly of the German stuff. It felt like really tightly put together, which I thought was great.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Nice car.
Yeah.
I mean, $300,000, it should be a nice car, but sometimes they're not.
Sometimes they're not, and sometimes they're flawed.
Yeah.
And the first DBX, like, this has a lot of hardware changes, and it's noticeable, like, when you're driving it.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of improvements made, and those things all are obvious.
It's so much better that Aston thinks it will outsell the regular one.
Wow.
Like, most people don't need the difference between 500 and 700 horsepower, but you notice all these differences even when you're not using the extra power. And
I mean, the handling and the ride are better. Like, the power, forget about it, but it was the handling, ride, and steering that were really obvious to me.
Yeah, they were really good. Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aston, for sending that one down. And we got to have a go in the VF Engineering Supercharged Lamborghini Huracan STO.
Oh,
I've now driven every product that they've made since 2011. And the product itself, their supercharger package for Lamborghinis, has had to only evolve ever so slightly. They just have more and more applications. But with the STO, they're starting with the gnarliest Huracan ever, rear-wheel drive, rear steer, very light by Huracan standards. The linear steering makes it very progressive, very touchy, very responsive, amazing brakes, and turns out 200 horsepower more is good.
Yeah.
Shocking.
The foundation is obviously there. It's almost like you got a GT3 race car, which usually has handicap power compared to like the factory, and then they just turn that knob back up again. Like, you're like, oh, this has all the race components.
Yeah.
And now we just add the power back.
Well, Nick's philosophy is always that they bring the power level up to the capability of the chassis. I've never driven a car from VF where I felt like it was overpowered, or super hairy. This is the first one I've ever driven from them where it felt like even in the low gears that you had to fight for traction. With the all-wheel drive cars, it was just like, power down, run nines, no problem. This one, you could do a burnout. You could chirp the tires in second. You could do some stuff like that.
Well, when you tested the STO on the street, I remember when you launched it lit up like first and second gear.
Yeah.
Now we have 200 more horsepower.
Well, this one, if you roll into it in second,
with traction
not even in track mode, where traction control is in that sports setting, the traction control is off, but stability control is still on. You'll blow the tires off a second, just rolling into it, which is pretty good.
Yes, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's 691 horsepower at the wheels, which in the YouTube era doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of actual real world acceleration, it's a bunch.
Yeah.
It's really fast.
I mean, the YouTube has broken us in just thinking anything less than 4-figure horsepower is like not quick. But what did I drive the two cars I drove earlier in the week that had 500 crank horsepower essentially each, and I was like, these are fast. And the kid was like, well, I know it's not a lot of power. I was like, look at my eyes, young man. You have 500 horsepower in a car that weighs 3,200 pounds.
Yeah.
This is a lot of power.
Yeah.
Shit's fast.
Yeah. But what's really interesting to me about, you don't normally think of superchargers that match well with revvy engines. You don't think about superchargers as being a high revving kind of thing, and these Lambos they rev. I mean, you could easily on a canyon run spend most of your time between 5,000 and 8,000 RPM, which is not what you would see in a Mustang or a Corvette, a non-Shelby Mustang, or an LS or LT powered car that's known for mid-range torque. A supercharger. Especially a Roots type supercharger, mated with a very revvy engine that goes to 8,500, is not something I would normally think about. But it works.
It works great. I mean, we have the dyno chart pulled up, and I mean, you can see that like the peak power is made at the same RPM it was made at when the car was stock. It's
the
just
curves
way more
are
power.
fundamentally identical.
Yeah, so it's making power all the way to, what does that say, 7,900 RPM at the top here? And then it drops off very slightly. So I think it's just we see superchargers more commonly on V8s that are larger displacement, like Hellcat, Mustang. Like, it's just more common. But, I mean, you've probably driven a V8, or sorry, supercharged E90 or E92.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that does great things for that engine. So it just makes whatever the engine is, the character of it makes it better and just more exciting.
Yeah, and I don't hear about them breaking a lot of cars. Sam Hubinette's got a Performante with a VF blower on it that he drifts. It's a rear wheel drive. It's got a handbrake on it. They disconnected the front differential, and there's videos of it on Sam Hubinette's Instagram, and he drifts it, which is lowish, relatively low speed, relatively high RPM. These blowers have twin air-to-water intercoolers on the side intakes, the lower intakes. They run an independent cooling system, and they're pretty well engineered. I do not hear about them breaking blowers or cars very often, if ever.
I agree.
They conservatively tune this stuff.
And we've driven a lot of VF products at this point, probably almost 10.
Yeah.
And they've always had really functioned great, and we've driven them in really hot weather. Nick said like the charge temp is 20 degrees higher with the blower on, but they test them at thermal a lot. Yeah. And like the cars will last roughly as long as they would out there before overheating or something, like as they would in stock form, because they adjust the cooling stuff. I might not do it for a purely track build. If my goal was to just have a track car, I probably wouldn't add this thing. Just because it's another thing. It's another thing. It's another system. No, I'm saying what they do. I'm just saying they do hot weather testing properly. Yeah. Yeah. But as a street car, fuck yeah. 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 Look at the difference in torque. Is that 100? Can you zoom in on this chart? Can we make it bigger? Because I can't really read it. Unless you can read it on your screen, Zach. I want to see the difference in torque. So let's see if that's 7,900. Peak torque isn't there. Peak torque's at 511. Is it 511 from 350? Right? The dotted line? Oh no, peak torque. No, that's the old one. Yeah, so right. So the new torque curve is actually more linear and peaks at 511 right near where peak power is. Yeah. The old torque number was flatter, but it was a peak of I think it's 353. Yeah. Oops. It's a lot more torque. Wait, no, the blue lines are the after there, Zach. So torque is the one that peaks at 5,000, and it's about 515 or so, right? Versus peak torque before is 350 something. Yeah, that's 175 pounds of torque, 165, 175 pounds of torque, and it peaks earlier. Yeah, I totally misread the chart. Yeah, so as a street car, you're getting a car that will feel way faster in the mid-range. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're awesome. It was great. Like I loved that the characteristic of the engine felt stock, but everything's just in fast forward. Versus a turbo system, which changes what the car feels like and kind of, in a way, to me, what it is.
Yeah, and that the fake roof scoop on the STO,
the cooling thing.
that it doesn't do much on the regular car. It just funnels air into the engine compartment. But if you happen to have something in your engine compartment that produces more heat than stock, it's particularly complementary to such a device.
That's true.
Because
Yeah.
it's blowing cold roof air directly onto it, and then with the vents instead of the rear window, those vents extracting at the back, and there's some on the top, there's some in the rear bumper.
Yeah.
They're more effective than the standard Huracan for extracting that heat as well. So the blower will probably perform better in the STO than it is in the,
that's a good point.
than it would in the regular car, because you don't have a glass. It's not literally cooking under glass.
Yeah, you have way better heat extraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny thing where like the McLaren, the roof stuff is an intake.
Yeah.
Or like with the the GT4, but like with this, it just adds cool air to the engine.
Yeah,
but,
which I'm sure
need,
helps for something, but it's a pretty big scoop for not going into intakes.
I think if you were doing serious track driving, then that would be important because you need that air moving in and out of the engine compartment. But if you're just using this to stunt around town, like then you're just making yourself like less comfortable.
Yeah, and they have the the new Lambo Tecnica. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah,
is that the one that's like the
to,
STO Touring?
Aren't you going to that drive in Palm Springs? Or
yes, something? I think it's called the Tecnica. It's basically the STO Touring. So it has the STO powertrain, it has a bunch of the STO aerodynamics, but it has comfort seats. It has, some weight put back in, I think.
I wonder if does it have the STO
it does
steering?
Not
same
have,
steering
it has
system?
the same steering, but what it does not have is that the hatch. It doesn't have, it has a regular glass hatch.
I mean, so this is the one.
But it does have
buy.
the rear bumper. It has the rear bumper with the extractor.
This is the one to buy.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Looks good.
Yeah, Lambo has such a habit of this. They make a crazy one and then they dial it back and put comfort seats. And then they make a crazier one and then they dial it back and put comfort seats. They always do that. It's a Lambo formula.
It's funny.
I saw the Urus Performante at Quail.
Oh, the one that set the weird record.
The one that set the fake Pikes Peak record.
Yeah.
It looked dumb. Honestly, it looked pretty stupid. I don't know how to.
I mean, look, it's a Performante GTS or whatever. Like all the companies play the same game.
Yeah. But the black hood was kind of dumb. You can probably get a body colored hood.
I wouldn't get a black hood. I've seen like Camaro did that a lot, and that black tends to fade in the sun, and then it looks so mismatched from the rest of your paint, especially because the paint on the Lamborghini, I'm assuming, is very high quality. I don't know what if the black would resist that heat fade or that sun fade more, but it hasn't aged well in my opinion as a style.
Printing money, the profit margin on that thing. You know what I mean?
Kyle Kennard's article.
This is like because we're about to be at the point where Urus leases are coming up, right? So how do you get someone to buy an even more, if they've liked their Urus, give them something even more expensive?
Of course.
I mean, can you imagine, I realize we just spent 15 minutes talking about a very fast SUV. So obviously people want very fast SUVs, but the Urus was already real fast. It didn't need anything.
It doesn't, but if you're in a circle where all of your friends have an Urus and you have a little more money than them, or you want to spend a little more money than them, this is how you stunt.
If I talked to you about reading the Yacht article, there was a long form article in the New Yorker
Yachts are the last
yacht
way to
life.
Show off.
Everyone's got Lambos, by everyone, I mean in certain very select circles where people are hoarding resources like you've never fucking heard in your life. Everyone's got a jet. Everyone's got 5 homes. Everyone's got a bunker. Everyone's got a blood boy. There's nothing new, but the biggest yacht. If you really want to be depressed, the New Yorker article about yacht people will really make you want to fucking kill somebody.
There's basically no restriction on how big it can be because you're putting it in the ocean. It's not like a house where it's like you can't put that here. It's too big.
Right. But there's a very funny regulation that governs the number of guests that a private yacht can carry before it becomes commercial.
Okay.
So when you see these yachts advertised, anything over like 100 feet, and don't get me wrong, 100 feet is excessive by any. If you were standing on the dock and there was a 100-foot yacht next to you, it would be enormous. It's huge. But if you just see, if you Google a photo of like a 200-foot yacht next to a 500-foot yacht, it's not just being like about being longer. The volumetric increase of, can you get some kind of picture like that? Like, there's all these memes that's like millionaire versus billionaire, blah blah blah, on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Of a yacht that most people would consider enormously extravagant compared to one that's like unfathomable. And the regulation says 12 guests is your limit. So when they advertise these things for sale, they always make sure to say, oh, it'll sleep 12 guests and like 35. Yeah, that one. Second, so the top row, millionaire versus billionaire yacht, YouTube. Yeah. So the volumetric increase.
Right, it's twice as wide.
That's probably like a 200-foot on the right versus Dilbar is like the one on the left is called Dilbar. It was just seized because it was an oligarch yacht.
Jeez.
It's not just length. It's like there's extra floors and there's extra width and there's
right. It looks twice as tall, twice as wide.
Yeah.
Somehow they both have helicopter pads, but this can clearly land at larger helicopter.
Look on the left side there, the second row down. Yeah, that's like a 120-footer in front of a like a 450.
Yeah,
like the yacht in the front is
insane.
probably $10 to $12 million.
It's insane.
Like,
this one is.
Yeah.
This is like.
Yeah.
These are sailing next to each other, or it's superimposed, but either way.
No, that's probably real. That's like a 200-footer in the front with a 450 in the back.
The 450 looks like the Navy would drive it around. I mean, it's
well,
got
they
like
are
8
now. They
floors,
confiscated
and
that
it's got
shit.
15 radar things on top. That's
but
insane.
both of those yachts will sleep 12 guests.
Really? The max is 12?
Well, air quotes, will sleep 12 guests because that's the regulation for private, non-commercial yachts.
So can they only have 12 bedrooms? And
what they'll do is they'll have 12 guests and 40 crew. And some of the crew will have very nice rooms.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes those crew aren't all there.
Correct.
Yeah, or you have a fucking racquetball court.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, so, if everyone's got an Urus, and then this is I want the Urus with the performance package.
You want to be depressed.
I do
think that is just, the hoarding of the resources is astronomical. That big boat in the back will take, I want to say it's 100,000 gallons of fuel. I think that's what it is. That one that was being
I'm very happy when they don't move very much.
Yeah, the one that was being seized.
Right, with the trucks.
With the 7 tanker trucks.
Yeah,
we did talk about it, right?
It was ridiculous.
Seized at the fuel dock, and it had 7 tanker trucks lined up to fucking fuel it. I think it was in Bali or Fiji, maybe somewhere in the South Pacific. They were trying to fuck it. We seized
It's hard to run away when you're like, okay, we just got to fuel the thing. It's like, all right, how long is that going to take? Like 7 hours.
I was just talking about this. I think it was Dubai or possibly Bahrain, but they basically delayed They delayed Russian sanctions for like a minute to allow 20 or 30 oligarch yachts to like roll up and drop anchor, and they're all just kind of chilling there. And then they were like, okay, we will impose sanctions starting now.
So they could seize all of these things. Yeah. That's clever.
Yeah. Anyway, I forgot how we got to that. Oh, because Urus Performante. It's not much of a stretch to go from an Urus Performante to a 500-foot yacht. Just saying.
It's all scale.
Economies of scale. Will this podcast air after the 22nd? Should we talk about our...
This will air next Tuesday.
Which is the 21st?
Which is the 20th.
The 20th. Well, Should we still talk about it? We've already revealed it.
Oh yeah, we can talk about
the giveaway.
Yeah, we can talk about it. There's no landing page until the 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the 22nd, we will have a place for you to go to enter to win. The BMW 135i project car, courtesy of your friends at the Smoking Tire. We bought a car. It's a 09 BMW 135i.
Black on black, manual transmission.
Yep.
N54.
Yep. Pretty clean.
Pretty clean.
No
nice
check
car.
engine lights. No check engine lights. It's a straight car. We went to the canyons with it to make a video, which will be airing very shortly
Next
on the
Thursday.
22nd.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep.
22nd? And you'll see how it is stock. We're then going to modify it for the ultimate $30,000 street track. Track. I don't see why not. Street track, canyon, daily, well-rounded car. You can do things in, use it as a normal car, but it will also be impressive fun in the canyons.
It's a question that so many of the listeners have asked us so many times that it seemed like a very good premise for this giveaway. It was like, well, why don't we answer that question in metal?
Yes.
And then, if you guys want to try to win it, you can.
So I haven't driven a 135i stock in the canyons in over 10 years. I was really impressed with a lot of things about this car. For having 93,000 miles, it was awfully tight. The interior is in great shape. Some of the plastics are a little tired. We may try and replace those, but no squeaks or rattles. The shocks, considering they're original, are in excellent shape. We're going to put coilovers on, but for the tunability and adjustability that we're looking for and the flexibility. But I thought the ride on the street was really good. The shifter feel was great.
Yeah.
The clutch engagement is really nice, light clutch, but a really positive catch point on the clutch. The steering has a good weight to it. The car's the right size. In 2009, people did complain that it was a little heavy. In 2022, it certainly doesn't feel heavy.
It's like 3,400 pounds.
Yeah.
About that.
The brakes are very effective, although the rotors are a little bit warped. We're going to put new OEM brakes as well as high temp brake fluid. We don't need the OEM brakes are good. These just are, I think, a little tired. So we're going to put brand new hardware, brand new brakes, and then high temp brake fluid. So if you wanted to do a track day, whatever tires are on there right now, I don't like. We're throwing those in the garbage.
Yeah, well, because we're going to do HRE wheels with sticky Michelin PS4s.
Yeah, I think these tires are Pirellis, but they're not like good Pirellis. They're whatever Pirellis, and they're definitely a weak point of the car. We're going to get rid of those and do Pilot Sport 4S. And we're going to do a little bit of paint and body to make it look really nice. We're going to do a crazy super deep detail to make it look really nice. Motul gave us all the fluids that we need to preemptively do the 100,000 mile service so that it's running as good as it can. It doesn't need more power. It's fast.
Yeah, it's fast.
That N54 engine stock makes excellent power in a car of this size.
Yeah, very, very fast, very smooth, big, broad torque curve.
Yeah.
Power comes on real early. I mean, these things, like, I don't know if they were underrated from the factory, but regardless, they feel very fast.
Yeah, and like, we're not trying to build a car that you can win and then brag about on a forum. Like, it doesn't need to have 800 horsepower, but like the kind of stuff that we would do to our own car to make it go quicker. Lightweight wheels, tires, brakes, suspension, and then just make it as healthy as it can be.
Because that's what we like to do is, have a car we can drive around, and then also it will run the canyons the way we want to run. It'll feel competent doing it. Yeah. And so like the suspension, we don't want to go full race suspension, monoball, everything. Like, it needs to be relatively comfortable driving around town.
We don't want to ruin it.
Yeah, we don't want to ruin. Yeah.
Which you could do
Yes,
easily.
you
You could easily ruin it. And we want it to be 50 state legal. You don't want to have someone win a car and then get reffed.
Right. So we're not doing crazy engine mods that mean that you are now driving something that is a liability to you legally in your state. We're not doing that. If you want to do that when you win it, fine. But overall, I mean, for a totally stock 13-year-old BMW, I was pretty impressed with how it drove. I thought it was really fun. It had the seats held me really nicely in place. The inputs were really good.
They were what I want from a Canyon car, and it was fast. It was absolutely a fast car. It does not need any more power at all. You could mob in one of these things, especially if we get lightweight wheels and good rubber and brand new brakes. You're gonna be going quick in this thing.
It's gonna be very sticky. They're really nice.
So
really nice.
I think we bought the right car, and I think we're gonna do everything we can to improve it in a tasteful and functional way. And then we're also gonna do the full service. That way, we can't guarantee that nothing would go wrong once you take delivery of the car. It's obviously as is. It's a used car, but I don't personally want to give away a car that someone's going to end up with a bill, immediately. And so it's 7,000 miles from a service that's known to be a major expensive service. And so we're going to do that service for you, so you are at least getting something that's in as good a shape as we could possibly give it to you. Mm-hmm. But so that starts September 22nd, and then when is the drawing? November
16th.
16th is going to be
11:59 p.m. Pacific time is when it ends, and then the announcement will be, I think, very, very shortly after that.
A day or two after that, right?
So we'll put the link in this show's description on the 22nd when it goes live. But the system's pretty simple. You just buy a piece of merch from the website in that link, and then it will enter you to win this BMW 135i after we have given it all of the attention and care it deserves. And
special shout out to getenteredtowin.com. That is our partner in this. When you're doing giveaways, there's all kinds of sweepstakes regulations, rules, and stuff like that. I highly recommend people read the disclosures before entering. And they're a veteran-owned business. They've worked with friends of ours, such as Regular Car Reviews and some other YouTube channels, and they're helping us with the logistics of this kind of thing, especially because there's a lot of legal bullshit you have to do to make it legit, and we're always trying to stay above board. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, the answer to what is the best Canyon car for $30,000, we won't just have an answer for you. You can have the actual car.
You can have the answer.
You can actually get the car. And so we made a video of our impressions of the car stock. We're going to have another video of doing the modifications. We'll have another video for what it's like to drive after the modifications. And then we will give it away.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Let's go to the people. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is how you interact with us on the show. You can watch the live show. You can ask us questions like we're going to get to now. You get an extra 9th show every month. And this month, we're recording that 9th show, we call the Pro Driver Show, tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about the Detroit Auto Show, what's going on right now. So if you want to hear our thoughts on the Detroit Auto Show, you should become a patron at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire. Become a pro driver. Get that 9th show, and we'll be talking about the new Mustang, our thoughts on that. It was just revealed. And more. You can also listen with no ads at the Patreon. So if you don't like ads, don't complain about ads. Ads are for people who get their content for free. You can buy your way out of ads for a very reasonable amount of money.
You can also get early access to shows, so we record this show today, but the general public won't hear it for another 4 days.
Yeah,
5 days.
You can get it now.
You can listen to it now. There's an RSS feed, so you can listen to it on your podcast app or on YouTube. Same.
It's a separate feed.
Separate feed, right.
Yeah.
So it's the same easy listening process you've had with a regular podcast. You can bring it with you and stuff, but it just doesn't have any of the ads, and you get it early.
Yeah. Let's go to the people from patreon.com/Smoking Tire Podcast. Michael Cosgrove says, keep, cash, and crush. It's a version of fuck, marry, kill, I think. Crush the Bentayga Puro Sangue. We didn't talk about the Ferrari SUV
we did
yet.
Not.
And the Urus. The Ferrari SUV was announced. They won't call it that, but that's what it is. Front engine V12. 750 horsepower. It's nice of them to do a V12. That's cool.
It's kind of like a lifted GT4 Lusso.
Yeah, basically. The name is completely absurd. It is the least pure-blooded Ferrari in all of Ferrari's history.
Right, and they don't want to call it a crossover or SUV, but it is.
It definitely is.
It fits in that definition.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got suicide rear doors,
which are sweet.
That's fun.
That's very cool.
There is a function to that. It's easier to get in when your back seat is kind of small. It is easier to get in with a suicide door. You bend your body in a better way. So that's smart. And I'm sure it'll drive good.
Yeah, probably. It'll sound amazing.
Probably sound great. It'll probably drive great. There's a very funny interview with Luca de Montezemolo on the intercooler.
Oh, it's so good.
Where he just goes ham on just trashing Ferrari. It's really funny.
Yeah, he used to run Ferrari, and he's like, here's why. He lays out why they did it.
Yeah.
Why the name thing he doesn't understand. Like that is the most honest statement I think I've ever heard from any CEO in any industry.
Well, read some Bob Lutz.
Oh, that's true.
Bob Lutz,
he doesn't give a fuck.
And he's not a CEO, but when the new reissued Countach came out, the statement from Gandini was epic.
That's true.
Epic.
In that line, I guess I should say.
He was all, they didn't ask me.
Yeah, a lot of just
He's like, I'm not dead.
There.
They could have fucking called me, these fucks. So anyway, fuck, marry, kill, keep, cash, crush. Bentayga, Purosang, and Urus. Without driving the Purosang, I would say crush the Bentayga, cash out on the Purosang, and keep the Urus.
Wow.
Cash, I read, is flip.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Flip it.
I think I would... Oh, that's so hard. Yeah, crush the Bentayga. I just don't like the way it looks. And yes, I mean, it's the same thing. Until we drive the Purosang, I can't answer differently. I want to keep the Purosang because I think it's very pretty.
I want to flip it and buy a real Ferrari with the profits.
Well, I mean, if I'm buying a Purosang and throwing away a Bentayga, I can probably buy a Ferrari. So I'm thinking in a vacuum.
True.
So I want to keep the Purosang, but we will see.
Gunnar Ray says, why haven't we had John Ward in the new studio? No real reason. We probably should get John Ward in the new studio. I think, was he not here at one point?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the catalog.
I feel like maybe he was, but I don't know.
Or maybe right at the end of the old one.
It might have been right at the end of the last studio, yeah. I don't know the answer to that last question, so we can just skip over it to the next one there.
Okay.
Scub Trouble? SCB Trouble? Turble?
Sure. SCB Trouble, I guess?
I don't know. Can you move the mouse so I can read it? There's a thing over it.
It's just SCB TRBL.
No, the question.
Oh, sorry. Why is that
I don't know. There's a thing that's over the question. There we go. Do I have any experience with left-hand drive swapped cars? They are common in my country, and a left-hand drive GTR sounds perfect in a country where you drive on the right side. I do not have a... that is... No, that's not true. That was right-hand drive. No, I imagine if the same car was built in both configurations, then it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah. I've seen a couple of left-hand drive converted GTRs before, but I am not particularly interested in that. I don't need a GTR to be left-hand drive. I don't find it difficult to drive a right-hand drive car. I don't go to. Nobody should ever go to a drive-through. You should just not go to drive. People go, what do you do at the drive-through? You don't go.
You just don't go that day.
You just don't go ever to a drive-through. There's no healthy food coming out of a drive-through. None.
El Pollo Loco is not terrible, but I think the amount of money you would spend to convert the car like that, or the amount of time you'd spend if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
You could very easily just learn to drive the right-hand drive car and not have a problem with it, and then just, the money it would cost you to convert it, you just have a second car that you could take to the drive-through.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of incredibly mild inconveniences that can come from driving a right-hand drive car.
Yeah.
They are fucking mild.
Yeah.
And
you're losing something about that car. Like, if it was made in both left-hand drive, right-hand drive, fine. But if it was only made right-hand drive, that's part of its charm and part of its identity. So to change that fundamentally, it's just like... And I think with the GTR, you'd have to have like an entire custom dash made, right? Because they didn't make it left-hand drive.
The one I saw that was converted, it looked pretty decent. I don't know where they got the dash from.
Wow.
I don't know how they did it, but it looked okay. I mean, I didn't see it, I didn't touch it, I didn't sit in it. It was a photo on the internet. So I don't know what they did.
Was it like one of these Sultan of Brunei where like they paid Nissan?
No, I think it was for sale on Cars and Bids or something. Wow. Is where I saw it. And it looked okay. I mean, it looked fine, but I imagine it's like, what did I drove one car. Where did I drive a car that had, no, I have driven something. One. I have driven something. No, it wasn't, you know what it was? It wasn't converted. I drove a...
Cars and Bids, you were right.
Yeah, Cars and Bids, and go see if there's a photo of the interior.
Yeah, there is. It's,
yeah, there it is. And that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, from this photo, I mean, that looks...
It doesn't look like what like a regular...
But the gauges are different than a stock R34.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this was done.
Oh, it's got a period correct Nismo gauge cluster. That's why it looks different than the car I drove, because it's just Nismo instead. But
my main concern would be what happens with the steering shaft. Do they have to put an extra joint in there to bend it around something? Like I drove a E46 M3 that had a V8 in it once, and that was real cool. Except to get the steering shaft around the V8, they had to put an extra joint in there, a knuckle. And the steering feel was all kinds of trash.
Yeah.
And so that would be a concern I would have with this type of car, where if it was never built, if it's built both ways, then you just get the one from the other way. But if it was never built both ways, wait, go up. Let me see what does that one say? Does this really scroll down one paragraph? As legend, in order for it to work, the gauge cluster, steering wheel, and pedals have to be opposite that car. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's worthwhile. My opinion, it doesn't seem like it's worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, that is a really important and I think overlooked note, is where is the steering routed? Like, were they able to take, the rack and pinion system from like a 240 and it worked because it's an inline six and it slots down on the left side, like, and then in the exhaust manifold.
And it's not the kind of thing that was mentioned in this particular auction.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a really good point, because then if you were in the steering on a car that's very good, just to have a different engine or to have the driving on the left side, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So
that's something I would think about.
Just drive on the right hand side, man. It's not that bad.
Yeah. Kurt said, I had a newer Camry rental car and I was surprised that it wasn't any more quieter, more comfortable, and nicer than my 2012 Accord V6. Is this an exception to the rule or something you've noticed too? Well, a few things could go into this. One is if you have a top of the line Accord from 2012 versus a base model Camry from 2022, you could have, if you have leather and this is cloth, if you have a top tier trim and this is a bottom trim, there could be all kinds of things that could be like that. But
it's also a rental car.
It's also a rental car.
It could have been driven really hard.
Yeah.
The bushings could be going. The maintenance might not be as good. It might not be as up on the maintenance.
It could have cheap, loud tires on it.
Yep.
But for a mid-size sedan, I would say that other than the technology in the car, if we're talking about just gas-powered, front-wheel drive, automatic transmission, gas-powered sedans, no, not much has changed since 2012. They've got maybe an extra gear or two in the gearbox. They've got better Bluetooth and touch screens and maybe radar cruise control, but it's not like the quality of leather and refined. The Camry didn't become an S-Class in the last 10 years.
True. I mean, they've been quiet for a long time, as has the Accord.
Yeah.
But I think you're just not doing an apples-to-apples comparison when you're driving a rental car. I mean, I've driven plenty of rental cars that feel much older than their odometer reading would imply.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I drove a horrible Focus Ford Escape when I was in South Carolina last month. Fucking horrible. And it was like a 21. And it felt, and it shuddered, and it had that terrible Ford automatic gearbox, the power shift or whatever it was, and the engagement was awful. And if I was just comparing that to a really well-kept car from 2012, I might go, well, this isn't any nicer.
Like, on a similar thread, Sarah's car is getting the roof resprayed, so she rented a car, and they had a Miata RF for rent. and the rate was high, and then she walked up to it, and there was like duct tape on one of the door panels, and, and she's like, "You want to knock this rate down?" They're like, "Yeah, we'll knock the rate down." Also, now she got home and learned that the trunk wouldn't close and latch unless I sat on it. Like she tried to slam it, I had to sit on it, but strangely, the hardtop convertible went down. But what was funny is that, you know, we've talked about before how like small cars make you want to drive like a dick.
Yep.
It worked with her. She took me for a ride, and I was like, I want to put on 2 seatbelts because she was just having way too much fun. She's like, it's so easy to place it in traffic, and like it's so zippy. And I was like, yeah, I drove like an asshole.
Yeah.
But she was having a great time. It was just funny to watch another person who's not a car person get corrupted by that small go-kart type feel.
Yeah. It's like Hannah with an electric car.
Does she? Right.
Hannah all of a sudden has 400 pounds of torque available instantly, and boy, does she like to use it. She will take any fucking hole in traffic. She doesn't give a fuck.
That's so funny.
She's silent mobbing in that thing.
Absolute power
very
corrupts.
Funny, yeah. Chris Navio, thoughts on a 997.2 GT3 RS 4-liter being listed for $1 million at Porsche Colorado Springs. Will they continue to go up in value like the CGT? Of course they will.
That is so much money.
Of course they. Well, I don't think they'll get $1 million. That's above market price for the car. But if you're a dealer, you ask high and you negotiate.
Right. Wait, what do CGTs now? They were like well over
Carrera
$1 million,
GTs are $1.5 million to $2 million.
Yeah, feels.
But they were undervalued for a while.
Yes, no, I agree. Yeah. They look like supercars. They're super unique. I don't know. This is a lot.
The 4.0. They made very few of them.
I know.
They made 610, 600 and something. Very few of them. They are the most powerful naturally aspirated 997, which a lot of people are still about.
It's before the cars got too big.
And I don't know, this car, I don't know, I haven't looked at this listing. This car might have no miles on it. It might be in a paint to sample color. Do you have it?
They made 600 997
Okay, 600.
Let me look up Colorado.
If it's in a paint to sample color, if it's got no miles, if it's one owner, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that something like this could be exceptional. If it's like white with 25,000 miles, then yeah, that's a crazy amount of money. But if it's another color that we're not used to seeing with 1,000 miles, then that would be an extraordinary thing. And I mean, yeah, they will fluctuate at a certain point, but there are so few of them, and it's not just a special edition. It's a very high performance with a different engine. Mm-hmm. It's a different naturally aspirated engine. It's not like that one runs 10 psi a boost and this one runs 12. It's a different displacement. In Porsche world, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find it?
I couldn't find the listing on their site.
Maybe it's sold.
Maybe, yeah. It might have sold quickly.
Scott says, I just bought a 4th gen Firebird. God help you. The previous owner was 6'5" and 400 pounds, so the stock seat is trashed. No shit. Finding stock replacement seats is not going well. Also, no shit. Recommendations for a good aftermarket replacement seat. The car is a daily driver cruiser and won't see any track use. I'm 6'2" with broad shoulders, so I'm not looking for anything aggressive. Just a good, comfortable, well-made aftermarket seat.
I still like these cars. I think they look awesome.
You ever drive one?
No, I've never driven one.
Shit piles.
It's just an F-body, right?
Yeah, but they're just, the build quality was so abysmal. They're fast, and with the right suspension and wheel and tire setup, they handle unbelievably well. You 305 square stance
they stick
with a nice set of KW V3s and big brakes and good tires, and they are fast. But they rattle like a bucket of Lego going down the stairs. So basically,
you should just take all of the interior panels out and just make it full track car.
Yeah.
I just think they look rad.
I mean, I haven't tried a lot of really good aftermarket seats. All the good ones I've tried have been Recaros. I mean,
what did you have in your Vet?
Those were Sparco Evo 2 Pluses. And so the Evo 2, the 2 in Evo 2 meant it was a little wider as opposed to the regular Evo, which was skinnier. And then the Plus meant the shoulder harness holes were a little higher for taller drivers.
All right.
But
this guy doesn't need that. He needs a comfy seat.
I don't know what, it also depends on like what's going to fit.
Yeah. Like
Corbeaus fit in GM products pretty well.
Yep.
Recaros they always seem to be the most expensive, but they're really high quality. You don't want to fuck around with a seat, because if you get a cheap seat, like with that Crown Vic with those shitbox seats you bought,
they were terrible.
They could look good in photos and then be really uncomfortable
and unsafe.
And then if you get rear-ended and the joint breaks, now you've got a busted spine.
Right. Like, people don't realize how important the seat is in crash safety. All you have to do is go online and watch the clip where Matt LeBlanc gets rear-ended on Top Gear. I think Chris might have rear-ended him like while they were moving.
Yeah.
And watch how far back his seat bends, and he goes up the seat in a Mercedes, and like it holds that force.
Yeah, it's
but
really
if you had a
bad.
cheap seat that's snapped, like you said, now you have something going right into your spine.
Yeah.
It'd be really bad. So,
I mean, maybe if you can find OEM seats from like a 2010 and up Camaro, that might fit. Also, like, you know, what fits and what doesn't fit. Like, I'm not really sure what fits.
Right. Find some ATS-V seats or something like that. Or
Yeah,
ATS seats.
I mean, I'm not sure what is going to fit there, but maybe even Corvette seats. Corvette seats might fit. But Recaro does make the best seat, and it's like a helmet. It's such an important piece of safety in the car that you really shouldn't cheap out on.
So Corbo does make seat brackets for 93 to 02 Firebirds.
Okay.
So that tells me that they probably make seats that would also fit if they make the bracket. But you know, you're gonna have to. It like you said, it's gonna go to the sites and see what lists your car, or you might have to email the reps from the companies and ask if they'll fit.
Yeah, or I hate to say this, but go in a forum and see if whatever anyone else has put in their cars. Those stock seats are trash, though. I'm not surprised that
Trashy.
the previous owner was a big boy and totally fucking blew them out. That's definitely par for the course. Nick G just turned 40 and wants a happy birthday. Yes, you can. Happy birthday, Nick G. Been listening for a long time. All right. Daxa's been loving the uptick in moto conversation, especially in the episode with Alonso. Is there a motorcycle experience you're interested in that you haven't tried yet? I'd like to go to Sturgis. I think that would be a funny thing to watch people into human behavior experiment.
Totally. I'd like to do the Supermoto class they do at Adams Motorsport Park, just to like play with those things. John Deisty from Colorado Springs, Porsche texted me. The RS 4.0 was Zwart's originally.
We could ask Zwart why.
Yeah. There's part of me that wishes I knew how to ride a motocross track once, but I will break myself.
I think Zwart's car was a paint to sample. I don't think it was white. I think it had some crazy color. If you just Google,
better not be silver, Zwart.
No, I think it was blue or something. It was cool. In which Zwart provenance plus paint to sample, I think, is possibly worthy of a plus 10 to 15% over regular value. I want to say it was blue. I don't know. Maybe not. Was I wrong?
It's on Road Scholars.
Yeah.
Or it used to be. Let me see.
What color is it?
It's loading very slowly.
GTS 4.0, order new. Yeah, one of two painted dark sea blue. Yeah.
Wow.
Find another one.
And this sold, this is on Road Scholars listing, but
Yeah.
this is probably old if it's at Colorado Springs now.
Go up.
This thing will know.
We can call Cam Ingram and ask him what it sold for.
Ask him why his website's not loading.
Your website sucks, Cam.
right.
Yeah, whatever. That's why. If it was white, if it had no provenance, you know, then it would be $200,000 to $300,000 less.
Yeah.
But an already rare car in a very rare color.
And it had 11,000 miles on it when it was listed or sold here.
Oh, that's actually a good amount of miles. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty awesome.
That explains that. I would like to do a motorcycle road trip. That I've never really done that. When I was dating Tracy back in the day, we rode a motorcycle to Palm Springs, like Joshua Tree. It was like a there and back with a one night overnight. That I suppose counted, but it wasn't really. Like I'd like to do a multi-day.
Yeah, you talk about doing it with like Thad and Musto or something, right?
I would like to do it. And
you could ride to Sturgis.
It's one of those things I never get around to because there's always more important shit to do, and it would take a lot of time and resources and money to actually do it. But it's on the back of burner. Ben Halloran says, in the Scotland cast, you mentioned a UK road trip, main points of interest you want to visit. I mean, I've been to the UK a bunch. It's not about points of interest. It's about seeing friends at this point. I'd want to go see Chris Harris. I'd want to go see Phil at Caffeine and Machine. I'd want to go see Richard Tuttle, drive some of his shit.
Yeah.
Phil said he would set us up with Don Law and drive the Ford Supervan, the XJ220 powered van. And I'd like to see the McLaren people and the BERRYMAN people and the Morgan people. And it's not about stops necessarily and seeing things. It's about seeing people.
I would like to visit ProDrive, in addition to all the things you said, because I drove past it when I was there for the drive shoot. And I think I emailed their PR person. Like, we didn't know it was right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, can we pop in? And it just was too late notice. But like, that place has just so many legendary stories.
ProDrive would be a good place to stop. I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about seeing people. Thomas Wilkes. Now that your house is done, any suggestions for kitchen gadgets or appliances that are actually worth it? I mean, yeah, the foot pedal thing on the kitchen sink, that's awesome. While your hands are dirty, covered in raw meat or whatever the fuck, that foot pedal, that shit rules. Love that. My new blower fan above the hood, above the stove, outside the house on the roof. The motor.
Oh, that's what that is.
It's not in the unit. It's out there. So really easy to clean because there's nothing mechanical in there to get gunked up, and also it flows a shitload of air, which is really nice.
Sucks the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah.
If there's a fire, you just hit that button.
Yeah.
And puts it out.
And I don't have a whole lot of other like gadgets. I have a deli slicer we got for our wedding, which is a great wedding gift to either give or receive. That thing we find all kinds of uses for. Your standard KitchenAid stand mixer, you know, the one that's like this big, always a lot of uses for the stand mixer. Other than that, I'm not that gadget heavy. I really have the classics. I don't have a lot of extra stuff. But space. My kitchen has so much space.
Yeah, it's big.
It's big. And like I just can because people always gather in the kitchen. Like in my old house, we had seating everywhere and everyone just stood around the fucking island in the kitchen.
I mean, usually because there was good food there.
Because there was food.
Right.
Well, now the island has 4 stools on it, you know, so people can actually sit at the kitchen while I'm making food.
Yeah.
And
now there's not a fight for appetizer space and
correct.
prep space. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it. Christian Pelfrey, is there a planned? Did Micah Moore have? Was that it?
He had a dark horse question, but we're going to cover that tomorrow at the Detroit Auto Show.
We'll save that for the Pro Driver Show. Christian Pelfrey, is there a planned follow-up book to Ludicrous? I don't know.
I don't know.
You
got to ask Ed.
I would ask the author of Ludicrous, Ed Niedermeyer. I just appeared on a podcast with Ed and Moody Hikmet. Go watch that. It's called Not Sure How Much Mobility Invitation. Is the show actually called I'm Not Sure How Much More Mobility Invitation I Can Take? Because that's a long name for a show, but it's something like that. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it is. But just look up Niedermeyer Moody podcast. You'll find it. Will Boggs, what modifications on a car make the car feel the most special? Feel the most special. Well, it depends how you define special. I mean, there's certain things that might not change the performance of the car at all, but would totally change the feedback of the car. For instance, if you put a short throw shifter in the car, it might make the gear changes feel more precise, but it wouldn't really change the performance at all.
Yeah, and Will, you said, I want to correct you on something. You said that adding suspension might not improve the driver feedback if the car already has good enough stock suspension. But I like my car, adding suspension with a good alignment absolutely improved the driver feedback. Like the steering feel was way better, the turn-in was better, it was more fun to drive. It turned, like everything about how that car drives, other than its ride over broken pavement, like was improved by the suspension, even though the stock suspension is good for like GT stuff and it's nice and soft, but I think it definitely improves it.
I mean, aftermarket exhaust. Aftermarket exhaust makes the car feel like you've just gained 30 horsepower and you've probably gained 3.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw this guy with a fucking like Scion TC the other night, straight piped, missing the rear bumper, and he was driving it like he had a V12 because he wanted to hear. He's like, he felt so fast.
Yeah, you put an exhaust in your car, and you all of a sudden feel like you are so full of power.
Yeah,
and you are not. You are only full of noise.
I would say that almost any mod I've done has made that car feel more special because it has changed the interaction with me. You know, I put an intake on my Jetta when I was like in college, but I still enjoyed that for the 3 years I owned it because it sounded different.
Sure. Yeah. William F. Kraft. How are the BTUs in the new kitchen? It is all about those BTUs, brother. One of the things I'm really impressed with, I've cooked 2 meals on my new stove. One of the things I'm really impressed with, the precision of the flame is awesome. I got a lot of horsepower on there, but it's like STO steering. It's like 1-to-1 with the knob, really good. And the ovens, because I have a gas stove and electronic oven. My old house had a gas oven, highly imprecise. The new oven is fucking boom, right to the degree. It's fucking awesome.
That is important.
Yeah,
that is very important.
And the new ovens, the oven racks are on roller bearings.
Whoa.
They slide in, they're load bearing. So you fucking pull that shit all the way out. It's got a Thanksgiving turkey on that bitch, and it's gonna hold nice.
Wow,
that's cool. Really nice. It's on a detent, so it clicks in and stays, and then and it clicks in and stays out.
I've never seen that before. That's
fucking
rad.
Rules. When I discovered that, I was like, oh, that's the shit.
That's cool.
And it has a meat thermometer that plugs into the oven itself. So you can select cook my turkey to 150 and it will cook it until the internal temp is done.
And it's all connected and then it turns the oven off?
Like it's a thermometer, like a needle with a 10-inch wire and a fucking like a guitar plug, a 1/4-inch plug that plugs into the inside of the oven.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, it turns the oven off?
Yeah.
Wow.
That shit is awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Cook it higher than 150 or you get sick.
I just made up a number. But yeah. Sean Finney, favorite slow and low depreciating daily drivers to complement a sports car, ideally used, automatic, all-wheel drive, 45 grand. Lexus IS 350.
45.
A clean Lexus IS 350 will never be less than $25,000.
I agree, but I would say if you already have a sports car, an IS 350 is a little small, so I would go GS 350 F Sport, which is around 45, and I think is such a good overall sedan.
Or like an RX. Like any Lexus with a V6. Of like crossover, sedan.
Oh, he needs all-wheel drive.
It's RX.
Yeah, RX is all-wheel
RX 350 if it fits your life. Like not a particularly interesting car, but it'll be fucking RXs and cockroaches at the end. We'll all be dead.
Very true.
It'll just be RXs. Yeah, I mean, what else would you? I mean, I would want slow depreciating. I mean, Lexus and Toyota are like boring, but they last.
They are. Oh, you can get a GS 350 with all-wheel drive. So I'd recommend that again. But what else?
My sister had a Honda Pilot. Really liked it.
What about the new Continental? I know it looks like a livery car.
Oh, interesting. I bet the repair costs are high. They don't share a lot of parts with other stuff.
That's not good.
Yeah, but they are nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Lincoln Continental recently discontinued. They didn't make it. They stopped making it, right? I think they stopped making it. I would not say Grand. Trying to think. 45K?
That's, I mean,
45K will get you a great 2 generations ago Range Rover. like a 2012 or 2012 Range Rover.
God,
the Ford engine one.
Save $10K for repairs, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it'll get you a great one.
It will. That's true.
Slow depreciating.
Slow and
diesels.
Slow,
Diesels really have, even after Dieselgate, like the Q7 diesel, the X5 diesel, the Mercedes ML 350 diesel, those have a floor.
Yeah.
Because there is a diehard contingent of people that's all they want.
Dude, that X5 diesel that Thad and I drove for like a week was phenomenal.
Yeah, they're great.
At everything.
Yeah.
That was a great car.
Or, you're not going to like this, Outback. An Outback, like, doesn't depreciate.
True.
They have a floor. You get an Outback, $45K, you don't have to spend $45K. You spend $25K on an Outback. 4 or 5 years old, 30, 40,000 miles, 25 to 28K, and that car will never go below 20.
I mean, in that vein, if we move to dirt stuff, Wranglers or 4Runners, like any 4Runner is not going to depreciate.
Yeah, 4Runners for sure.
Yeah, and that has the Lexus reliability.
God, they drive awful.
They do.
4Runners drive.
That's 6-speed.
You want to talk about where durability is like the only virtue.
Yes.
If not for durability, the 4Runner is possibly the most overrated vehicle.
Oh, for sure. You can't sell the same transmission for 50 years. Maybe not 50, but like.
But my sister-in-law just
old.
spent so much money on a 4Runner.
Really?
It's like 3 years old. She spent so much money on it, and I didn't want to talk her out of it. She just wanted it. She can afford it. She got it, and she fucking loves it. And she doesn't care that it drives like garbage.
God, just hunting for gears all the time.
Yeah, always hunting for gears. But my physical therapist, you might notice I'm wearing my mesh shorts today because I went to physical therapy right before this. He just sold his Outback. He had a 2015 Outback, and he had it for 3 years, and he put like 12,000, 14,000 miles on it, and he got like $4,000 less than he paid for it after 3 years. So that's a Outbacks.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Subarus, naturally aspirated Subarus.
Yeah.
They're a good place to go to. Jeremy Martin. Thank you, Scott, for your note. Jeremy Martin says, okay, a lot of words here. Owned a 996 Cabriolet for a few years. I'm dying to track the damn thing. They might not let you track a 996 Cabriolet. I don't know if they'll...
It'll need a roll bar.
It may, with a roll bar, you may not... I would check your local regulations before signing up and giving money to a track day. Let's assume that you can. Gotcha. For the purpose of the question, assume you can. While it's running great, knock on wood, mechanically perfect, to turn 100,000 miles, it's going to need a few $1,000 of suspension. Wait.
So
it's going to need a few
ready.
$1,000 of suspension, bushing, and brakes freshened up to be track worthy. Am I dumb, or should I just buy a new 86? Okay, well, here's the thing. If you haven't taken it on the track yet, it doesn't need those things to be track worthy. You could do an HPDE, assuming the roll bar situation is handled, on the car as it is, and then figure out what you need later. You don't need to spend several $1,000s on a car before doing your first HPDE.
I mean, unless your suspension is like
blown
broken.
out.
Like if you have leaking shocks or something, then you do. I mean, and you definitely need to freshen your brakes before you go out and do a track day. But like maybe you can hold off on suspension and bushings until you take it out and see if this is actually the car you want to drive on the track. You put wheels and PS4s on it.
I mean, or should I buy an 86, or should I buy something else? Yeah. The best car to take to the track is the one you have, right? So I would, assuming the roll bar thing works out, do a track day, and then figure out what areas need addressing and when. Mm-hmm. If your brakes are really shot, I would start there because that's a safety issue. You could drive a car on tired suspension on the track, and it might not be as good as it can be, but it'll get you around.
True.
So you don't necessarily need to blow $5,000 or $6,000 on a set of fancy coilovers, and you definitely don't need to necessarily do bushings. I mean, 23 years old, you'll need to do bushings soon, but maybe not necessarily right now.
Yeah.
You could do a track day and it'll be okay.
I mean, it sounds like I'm impressed. This is your everything car. You have snow tires for it. You say you love it. You love it. It feels special whenever you cruise it around. So I think if you've never done a track day, if you can get the taste of it with this car without having to spend a bunch of money on like a roll bar and shit, if you like it, he might be a good case for go find a $5,000 Miata. And
maybe
that's your track thing. You're not worried about breaking it, and now you can keep the cab you love without having to compromise it and modify it, in all these different ways just to make it do something that it's not actually that well sorted to do.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, a 996 cab isn't ideal for track days no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you start stiffening up the suspension, you might find that the cab chassis isn't as rigid as you thought it was. You might find other areas in which it is compromised that you might not like. I mean, a convertible Porsche catches a bad rap, but it's a nice car for the street. And in fact, my advice to a lot of people is if you want to save a little bit of money and get into a Porsche, a cabriolet often will sell for substantially less than the fixed roof version. And most of the time, the experience is just as nice. In some cases, it's better. But best car to take to a track day is the car you've got.
Right. It sounds like that's the situation.
Yeah.
You're itching to go. And this is what you have.
Yeah. That's our show for today. For the pro drivers out there, we'll be back tomorrow with a pro driver show talking about the Detroit Auto Show, the new Mustang, the electric Charger.
Oh, yeah.
And Joe Biden's dumbass fucking tweet. It was...
We can talk about... yeah, I have theories.
I mean, I have a guess of the most obvious thing that happened, but still, the fact checking is the thing.
Right. Your staff. There's so many people on staff.
A lot of people on staff not running that by. I would volunteer to be automotive fact checker for the Biden administration.
Reuters also fucked it up.
I'm sure a few people fucked it up, but that's our show for today. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you later. Bye.